good afternoon, good morning, good evening for some of us here. Greetings to survivors, panelists, excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. In our interesting discussion today, survivors matter to countering trafficking, amplify their voices. We are very delighted once again to have counter trafficking advocates from across the ASEAN region joining us this afternoon or this morning. And as Justice Systems Director of ASEAN-ACT, I am pleased to be back to host our last webinar of the year, the 22nd in this series. It has been a full year, and this is probably the last webinar that my colleague Chanapat Manidil is joining me as co-moderator. He has recently been promoted as our Thailand country manager. So our team will now play the house rules.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. We would like to make this virtual event a pleasing and productive experience. To make this happen, the organizers request all participants to observe the following house rules. You may use the chat box when you want to provide inputs or comments. For documentation purposes, this event will be recorded. If you require special assistance to take part in this event, please notify our event organizers so that we can accommodate to your needs. Please click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen to select the language of your choice. Our interpreters are on standby. Lastly, as we are in a virtual environment, we will be kind to one another in case of internet connection issues. We will expect unavoidable technical difficulties. Feel free to join back if you're disconnected. Everyone's patience will be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you so much. Except for Maisida Salas, who will speak in Bahasa, all of our distinguished panelists today will present in English. If you look at the screen, click on the interpretation icon at the lower right-hand corner of your screen and choose the language that you like to listen. So from the list, we have English, Lao, Bahasa Indonesia, Burmese, Thai, Vietnamese. But if you want to listen in Khmer, please click on the Spanish channel. To formally open this webinar, we are fortunate to have with us Bia Puspita. She's the Senior Regional Portfolio Manager, Australian Mission to ASEAN. Hello, Bia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Darlene. Good afternoon, distinguished counter-trafficking partners, practitioners, advocates, and colleagues from the ASEAN region and beyond. I would like to acknowledge and thank our distinguished panelists today. We have Ms. Masida Salas, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Salam, Mr. Horkosal, and Ms. Sandra Wawaruntu, who are with us today to share their first-hand experience and insights in establishing survivor-led initiatives and working to empower other survivors and advocate for their voices to be heard at the policy level. It is also our honor to have Her Excellency Lilian De Leong, Assistant Secretary for International Relations, Department of the Interior and Local Government, SONTC voluntarily lead several representatives from the Philippines. Su will speak about building collaborative platforms and identifying opportunities to strengthen survivor engagement within the ASEAN mechanisms. Let me begin by conveying the apologies of Ms. Lara Franzens, my counselor for development of Australian missions to ASEAN, who is away today. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 22nd webinar to the for the ASEAN-Australia Counter-Trafficking Program, or ASEAN-ACT, on the important topic of survivor empowerment and engagement. This webinar is particularly timely as the Australian government announced on the 11th of November its first National Anti-Slavery Commissioner, Mr. Chris Evans. This is another important step forward in Australia's efforts to counter trafficking and all forms of modern slavery. One of the key mandates of the Commissioner is to ensure that survivors are supported and their voices heard in all facets of Australia's anti-slavery and anti-trafficking work. Australia recognized that modern slavery, including trafficking in persons, deprives individuals of their fundamental rights and freedoms. It takes many forms, from forced marriage and servitude to forced labor and dog bondage. As we work towards the eradication of these gross human rights violations, we must place survivors at the heart of our prevention and response strategies. The unique perspectives and expertise of survivors are essential for developing more effective policies and programs. Survivors of trafficking are increasingly recognized as key influencers in assessing law and policymakers to understand the gravity and long-term impacts of trafficking in persons and how best to respond to it. The ASEAN Multi-Sectoral Work Plan Against Trafficking in Persons 2023 to 2028, or known as the Bohol TIP Work Plan 2.0, advocates for ASEAN member states to establish national advisory councils or committees that engage survivors of trafficking to voluntarily share their experiences to shape ASEAN responses to trafficking. The plan also urged ASEAN member states to gather survivors' opinions and ideas on how to tailor protections and support services to better meet their needs. ASEAN has taken crucial steps towards building a cohesive, survivor-centered regional response to trafficking in persons with the work plan. Australia, through ASEAN-ACT, is working closely with ASEAN to implement the Bohol Work Plan 2.0 and support its monitoring and evaluation. Today's webinar marks an important opportunity to explore these themes by discussing how survivor voices can enhance counter-trafficking efforts in the region. As the last ASEAN-ACT webinar for 2024, I would like to express appreciation to our partners and audience who have shown interest in this webinar series. I look forward to the valuable discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bia, for the lovely message. Everyone is just so excited to learn and share in today's very interesting discussion with our survivors. So please, everyone, if you could join us in a group photo and our speakers as well, could you please put on your camera? So we are, okay. Can we have ASEC as well? Yes. ASEC Lilian to join us. Okay. All right. Do we have ASEC Lilian with us? ASEC, please. Could you please put on your camera? Okay, maybe we can do this again towards the end. All right. If everyone can, Agus, could you please tell us if you're ready to take the screenshot?
Yep. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Hang on. One more.
One more with a wave.
Yes. Hang on. 3, 2, 1. Hold. Hang on. One more. Sorry. One more. With the wave. 3, 2, 1. Yes. Thank you, Darlene.
Okay, thank you, Agus. Maybe we can have ASEC Lilian with us later and with Mr. Salam too. All right, thank you so much. And also, Pom, we miss you there. All right. Oh, there you
I
go.
was there, and we also had Asik with us in the photo too, Darlene. That was lovely photo.
Okay, okay. So, all right. All right. So, what do we hope to achieve in this afternoon's discussion? So, as we know, in the ASEAN Multi-Sectoral Work Plan on TIP, or as mentioned by Ms. Bia, the Bohol Work Plan 2.0, the ASEAN sectoral bodies are committed to build collaborative platforms and, of course, identify opportunities to strengthen survivors' engagement within the ASEAN mechanism. So there had been significant activities conducted by SOMTC, ACWC, HR, to name a few, where survivors participated and contributed to the development of regional or even national policies and guidelines. Today, we have another opportunity to engage with our survivors of DIP and, of course, to hear their lived experience and expertise in building collaborative platforms where we can hear their voices. We will hear definitely valuable insights from our panel today into the realities of trafficking that can inform us on better response strategies to prevent and fight trafficking, as well as to support those who had been affected. So we all hope to learn today the unique perspectives from our panelists to help ensure that the victim-centered and trauma-informed as well as culturally sensitive approaches are reflected in our anti-trafficking laws, policies, and practices. Now, to gain a better understanding of what our participants think about today's topic, we also prepared 2 polls for them to answer. So I will read the polls on the screen. Okay, for translation purposes. So question number 1, what is the biggest challenge in involving survivors in the policy-making process? Number 1, we have ensuring their safety and privacy. Number 2, overcoming stigma and discrimination. Number 3, providing adequate support and resources. Number 4, building trust and collaboration. And then question number 2, what measures must be prioritized to enhance survivor engagement in counter-trafficking initiatives? Number 1, we have establishing advisory councils. Number 2, increasing funding for survivor support programs. And number 3, enhancing training for stakeholders on trauma-informed care. And number 4, creating more platforms for survivor voices. So as you can see, there is no need for you to give your identity here, just a simple click of your preferred answer and submit it. No? The poll results will be used solely for this webinar and we'll present it later after all our speakers have done their presentation. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to complete this. So thank you for those who are now with us in the room from the different countries. Good afternoon to you. Hello. All right. So we can proceed if you're not done yet. The poll will still be up there. You can answer anytime you want to answer it. Okay. So now let me introduce our first speaker. I'm honored to introduce the speaker from the Senior Officers Meeting on Transnational Crime, or SOMTC, voluntary lead shepherd, Philippine representative to the ASEAN, Her Excellency Lilian De Leon. She is the Assistant Secretary for International International Relations, Department of the Interior and Local Government. As Assistant Secretary Lilian De Leon, a strong advocate of good governance in the country, has held various management positions in the local and national government agencies. She remains active in her commitment in advising LGUs in transformational leadership on governance, sustainability, and institutionalization. Known as the Woman of Many Firsts, ASIC De Leon served as the Executive Director of the League of Municipalities of the Philippines from 2001 to 2013. That's the longest serving executive director in the history of LMP. She introduced transformation and institutionalization in local government associations. So she contributed as well in the development and lobbying of some notable national policies such as the Free Patent Act, Sustainable Upland Development, and Population Management. She was nominated and elected as one of the members of the United Nations Climate Change Paris Committee on Capacity Building, representing the Asia Pacific. She takes on roles as a permanent or alternate representative for the vital working groups for the DALG Honorable Secretary. So, ASEC Lilian, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Attorney Darlene, and mabuhay and good afternoon, good day to everyone. Can you hear me? All right. Okay. So good afternoon once again. It is a privilege to speak about a matter that is both urgent and transformative, strengthening survivor engagement in counter trafficking, ASEAN and ASEAN member states' role. This presentation highlights the importance of survivors' voices in shaping policies and practices, emphasizing their invaluable role in creating more effective, humane, and inclusive anti-trafficking strategies. Human trafficking remains one of the most pressing human rights issues in the ASEAN region, driven by migration flows, labor demands, and porous borders. Traffickers exploit vulnerabilities, often leaving survivors in cycles of trauma. ASEAN has committed to addressing this challenge in alignment with global conventions. Yet, to truly combat trafficking, we must move beyond conventional frameworks and place survivors at the center of our efforts. Their lived experiences are powerful tools for improving policies, rehabilitation programs, and community support systems. And to guide our discussion, we will focus on three main objectives. First, empower survivors to take active roles in counter-trafficking initiatives. Second, enhance survivor-centered support services that address their unique needs. And third, utilize survivors' lived experiences to strengthen policies and community interventions at local and regional levels. And these objectives require collaboration across ASEAN member states grounded in compassion, respect, and a shared vision for justice. Despite the critical need for survivor engagement, several challenges hinder progress, like lack of resources. Survivors often face gaps in financial, mental health, and vocational support, limiting their recovery and reintegration. Second is the trauma and trust issues. Many survivors carry deep psychological scars and are hesitant to engage with systems that may have failed them in the past. Another one is the policy gaps. Inconsistent policies across ASEAN member states create obstacles to unified survivor support. These barriers highlight the importance of creating safe, inclusive, and resource-rich environments for survivor engagement. ASEAN has a unique opportunity to lead by example in strengthening survivor engagement. Key actions include, number one, implementing the Bohol Work Plan. This serves as a comprehensive roadmap for regional anti-trafficking collaboration, emphasizing survivor-centered approaches. Second, the regional coordination, enhancing collaboration, resource sharing, and the adoption of common standards across ASEAN countries. Third is the advocacy for survivor-centered laws, promoting legislation that prioritizes survivor protection, rehabilitation, and participation. Empowering survivor-led initiatives, providing financial and institutional support to NGOs run by survivors, fostering peer-to-peer mentorship and leadership in anti-trafficking efforts. And these steps create a foundation for survivor-driven change while ensuring consistency and accountability across the region. As a survivor-centered approach requires robust, holistic services, ASEAN member states should focus on holistic rehabilitation services by providing comprehensive support, including psychological care, legal assistance, vocational training, and educational opportunities. Also, like job placement and economic empowerment, collaborating with private sectors to ensure survivors can achieve financial independence and long-term stability. Accessibility of services. expanding services to reach survivors in rural, urban, and remote areas, leaving no one behind. And by addressing survivors' immediate and long-term needs, we ensure they can rebuild their lives with dignity and hope. We really need to promote survivor advocacy and awareness. Survivor advocacy is a transformative tool for raising awareness and reducing stigma. Key initiatives that includes public awareness campaigns, featuring survivor stories to humanize the realities of trafficking and encourage public action. Survivor testimonies in training programs, like integrating these experiences into law enforcement, healthcare, and social work training to enhance empathy and understanding. Community-based initiatives, engaging survivors to lead education campaigns in their communities, creating grassroots movements against trafficking, and these initiatives empower survivors while fostering informed and compassionate societies. When we talk of cross-border cooperation and safe migration, trafficking transcends borders, making regional collaboration essential. ASEAN member states should develop ASEAN-wide support systems for repatriated survivors to ensure continuity of care. Launch safe migration programs that educate migrants about risks and safe practices. Implement trauma-informed repatriation protocols to support survivors' mental and emotional well-being as they return to their home countries. And this cross-border coordination is critical to addressing trafficking comprehensively. We would like to share with you some best practices from the Philippines that others ASEAN states can replicate. Let's look at two inspiring examples of survivor-centered practices. First is the Recovery and Reintegration Program for trafficked persons. This multi-sectoral approach addresses survivors' psychosocial, social, and economic needs while empowering our families and communities to prevent re-trafficking. Second is the ASEAN-ACT TIP, or Trafficking in Persons, Center for Trafficked Persons. As the first shelter and one-stop shop of its kind in the Philippines, it provides immediate and accessible support, including legal aid, counseling, and reintegration services. And these programs showcase the impact of survivor-focused policies in action. And to conclude, survivors are not just beneficiaries of anti-trafficking efforts. They are catalysts for change. And by empowering their voices, supporting their recovery, and integrating their insights into policies, ASEAN member states can lead a truly transformative fight against trafficking. Thank you very much, and God bless everyone.
Thank you so much, Asek Lilian, for that excellent sharing. Some of the challenges and, of course, recommendations in strengthening survivor engagement through the ASEAN, and of course, ensuring survivors access to support services. And I like what you said about grassroots movement. So we're not looking just at the ASEAN as a whole, but of course, looking inward as well at the grassroots level. So thank you so much again, Asek. Asek, I hope you can stay with us until the end of this, or at least until the question and answer. We have a lot, I'm sure our participants have a lot to ask, especially from the SOMTC and yourself, Asek, with your vast experience and impressive background. All right. So thank you so
Attorney Darlene, just to add, thank you very much, Attorney Arlene. I just would like to highlight also the engagement of our civil society organization is really very important. You know, the people's organization is really very important in this kind of, you know, very important endeavor and the advocacies that the ASEAN is really pushing. Also, the role of the academe is also very, very important as we are really trying to push for a whole of society and a whole of nation and a whole of government approach. So
I
yeah,
totally
thank
agree.
you very much.
Thank you, Asek. I totally agree with you, and I'm glad we have from the CSOs with us as well, and survivors in as our panelists. So I am very honored to introduce our first survivor speaker. She is Maisida Salas, coordinator of Education and Socialization Department of the Indonesian Migrant Workers Trade Union. So she is also based in Indonesia. So Maisida Salas is a leading voice for migrant workers' rights in Indonesia. She has been a staunch advocate for trafficking survivors and their families, elevating the importance of protecting their rights and offering needed services. As a former migrant worker and human trafficking survivor, Ms. Salas founded Village of Migrant Workers, an NGO that provides skills training and support to individuals and their families who migrate for economic opportunity, as well as raising awareness about human trafficking. Her organization employs former migrant workers, including trafficking survivors, and has become a model community in Indonesia. Since 2011, Ms. Salas has served on the executive board of the National Council of Indonesian Migrant Workers Union and as the chairperson of the local Indonesian Migrant Workers Union in Wonosobo. Her passion and drive led her to establish a school for children of migrant workers in Wonosobo, which gained the Indonesian government's recognition. Ms. Salas, you have the floor, please.
Terima kasih. Selamat sore semuanya dan selamat pagi yang berada di New York atau di negara-negara yang lain.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody, and good morning to you from New York, in New York. So I'd like to share with you what I've been doing here past the trafficking that I experienced. This is actually just like an illustration from my cultural background. So in Java, this is what we do usually. We basically do this at home. It's just like poor people activity. Well, you basically comb other people's hair and try to find lice on their head. And yeah, just like a little bit about the culture or a background. So basically people do many things in the village setting.
Miss Salas, I think we lost you a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Please continue. Hello. I think we don't hear you, Miss Salas. Can we just come back to you? All right. Maybe we can call on our next speaker and then we'll come back to Miss Salas. I think she has some problem with our internet. So may I call on our next speaker, Mr. Abdus Salam? He's a survivor empowerment and communication officer.
Ya, saya mohon maaf sekali di luar sedang hujan deras, jadi saya menggunakan HP.
I'm sorry, it's raining really hard outside. So yeah, I have a bit of internet connection issue. Can I continue or?
Yes, we were about to. Okay, since you're back, please take the floor again, Miss Salas.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ya, next tadi yang foto saya di mana ya?
So let me find my picture.
Boleh dilanjutkan.
Can we continue the PowerPoint, please?
Agus?
Sambil menunggu, saya akan menyampaikan bahwa masa remaja saya itu hanya
So while
bisa
waiting,
dinikmati sampai pada
I
usia 15
want
tahun karena
to share that
usia 15
I had
tahun
to
itu
work
saya
when
menjadi korban
I,
pemerkosaan ketika saya menjadi
well, actually,
murid di
I lost
salah
my
satu
teenage
sekolah pada saat kelas 1 SMA
or my
dan
childhood when I
kondisinya
was
sebagai bentuk
15.
pertanggungjawaban dari
I
pelaku,
was a victim
saya
of
harus
a rape
menikahkan
case.
dengan
So I had
pelaku tersebut
to be
sehingga
married to
saya
the perpetrator,
merasakan hal yang
actually.
sangat tidak
So
baik ketika
it
saya
was
menjalani
not
rumah tangga.
fair, and I felt
Next
tortured
yang
when I
dulu
was
saya menjadi
married.
korban KDRT boleh.
And then I
Setelah
also
cerita
was a
ini.
victim of domestic violence. So yeah, that was a bit about my childhood and then my teenager years. And next
Nah,
one,
ketika
can
saya
we
menjadi
move the slide,
dinikahkan
please?
oleh
Okay.
kedua orang tuanya,
So
saya
I was
tidak
forced
mengerjakan kerja
married.
terlebih dahulu tadi.
I was in a
Di
forced
masa
marriage
remaja
when I was
saya
a
tidak
teenager,
bisa
when I was
menikmati
15.
hal remaja saya
So
karena harus
I did
menggembala
not
kambing,
have
kemudian
my
mencari rumput untuk memberi
teenager
makan kambing,
years.
mencari
I
kayu
had
bakar dan lain
to
sebagainya. Jadi
basically,
tidak bisa menikmati masa
I had to
remaja
do a
yang
lot of things
indah
like
seperti
send
teman-teman yang
my
alami mungkin ya.
the
Next,
sheep, and then also I had to become a shepherd,
next
and
lagi
it
boleh.
was not a great time, to be honest. Next one, please.
Nah, di masa remaja ini yang sampai usia 15 tahun yang
So
saya bisa menikmati usia remaja karena selebihnya saya sudah
I lost my
mengalami
teenage
hidup yang
years
sangat keras,
because
merasakan
at
betapa pahitnya,
15,
betapa
life
sakitnya hidup saya
hit me
ketika
really
saya menjadi
hard,
korban pemerkosaan
and
oleh kakak
I
kelas
was
yang
a
dimana dia
victim
harus
of a
seharusnya
rape,
melindungi adik kelasnya
and
di organisasi
the
OSIS
perpetrator
atau organisasi
actually
sekolah,
was
tetapi
someone
justru itu
older than
menjadi
me, and
sebaliknya.
he actually went to the
Next.
same school as me, but he violated me. Next one,
Lagi boleh.
please. Next, please. Next.
Nah, ini ketika saya dinikahkan dengan
This is an
pelaku,
illustration
yang
basically
terjadi
when
adalah
I
saya
was
selalu
married
menjadi
to the
korban
perpetrator.
KDRT atau
I
kekerasan dalam rumah tangga. Saya dipukuli, saya
experienced a lot
ditendang,
of
saya
violence.
diinjak,
I was
pernah
kicked, I
ditendang
was
kepalanya
trumped,
sampai kaki
I
dia
was actually kicked
kesleo.
in the
Kemudian
head
pada saat hamil saya
until
diinjak
he
perutnya, katanya
actually
supaya mati
twisted his
dan masih banyak sekali
ankle.
hal-hal yang
So you can imagine it
menjadikan
was
saya
really
itu
hard kick.
mengalami
And
depresi berat
even when
karena
I was
kekerasan baik
pregnant,
itu
I
kekerasan
was
fisik maupun
extremely
kekerasan
depressed
non
from
fisik.
this
Saya juga
physical
tidak pernah
violence and
diberi
also from
nafkah
verbal
berbentuk
violence,
uang oleh suami
economic
saya, tetapi
violence.
justru malah uang
He
hasil dia
did
bekerja
not
yang
provide
dia
for
bekerjanya
me.
itu di rumah orang
He
di
worked
usaha orang tua saya dulu membuka
at my
penggilingan
pet's
padi untuk
business. My
melihat
parents
judi dan untuk
had
klub
a
dan juga
mill,
untuk main perempuan.
and he
Selain itu
worked
juga
there
orang tua
for my
dia itu dulu
parents,
membelikan
but he also
mobil
was
truk yang
involved
berharap
in
bisa memperbaiki
drinking
kondisi ekonomi,
alcohol and
tetapi oleh dia
also
justru hasilnya
gambling.
untuk
And
tadi itu
basically,
ya
he
untuk
didn't
mabuk,
provide for
untuk
me
main
because the
perempuan,
money he
untuk
earned
minum
from
gitu, sehingga
working
ketika dia pulang
was basically just
dia langsung
thrown away
marah-marah saya
for
tanpa alasan meskipun saya tidak
going
merasakan
to
salah
brothel
pun
and
dia
then
tetap
also for
melakukan apa
being
yang dia mau.
alcoholic drinks.
Next.
Next one.
Lalu ketika saya waktu itu akhirnya kami bercerai di
Then
tahun
I got divorced
2009 kami
in
bercerai dengan
2009.
suami karena saya sudah tidak tahan lagi dan dia
I could not
menceraikan
take
saya
it
karena dia
anymore,
menghamili
so
perempuan lain yang perut
he
saya sudah
also had
membesar
to
sehingga
divorce me
dia tidak
because he
bisa lari dari tanggung jawab yang dituntut oleh
made
pihak
another
perempuannya
woman
tadi itu.
pregnant. So
Next.
the
Nah,
parents
disinilah saya
wanted him
mulai
to be
merasakan
responsible
bahwa saya
for
menjadi
that.
perempuan yang
So then
memiliki peran ganda yang harus
I
menghidupi
felt
anak
really
saya
sad
tanpa
because
suami dan
I
juga saya
was
mencoba untuk merantau
a
ke
breadwinner for
Korea
my
dan juga ke
child, and
Taiwan. Next.
also I had to cover for my child's expenses. So I went to Korea.
Boleh dibantu agak cepat
Can
ini
anyone
PPT-nya ya.
help me move
Mohon
the
maaf.
PowerPoint, please? A bit faster, maybe?
Next lagi. Nah, ini
Thank you.
ketika saya mengadu nasib di
So
Korea, tiba-tiba baru
I
18
went
bulan di
to
sana cuma
Korea.
bisa
I was
training,
there
ternyata
for
di sana
18
ada krisis
18
global yang
months,
melanda dunia waktu
and
itu
I was there
dan
on a
semua
training
perusahaan
visa,
tempat saya
and
bekerja itu selalu
the
kontak
global
saya
crisis
dipindahkan
took
ke luar
place
negeri,
and the
dipindahkan ke luar
company
lagi, sehingga
collapsed.
saya
Then I had to move to
akhirnya
another
memutuskan karena mau dipulangkan ke Indonesia
company
dan hutang saya
and
masih
the
utuh
next
di
company.
Indonesia untuk biaya saya ke
So then
Korea,
they sent me
akhirnya saya
home,
melarikan diri dan belum
and
sempat
I
menikmati
basically
hasil
ran
bekerja
away and I didn't get a chance to enjoy the money that I made. But when I actually tried to escape, I got caught by the police and I was deported. And when I sat home, I was really trying so hard on how to get by. And also because I have a child, I also had to spend money on my child's needs. I also had to take care of my parents. And I went to Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, but actually I lost about 10 million rupiah because someone basically con me that time. And then I was a maid in in one family, and I really felt a lot of problems when I had to stay and share a place with a lot of people, and I sleep on the floor, and also they portion my meal, and then we were not allowed to go out and interact with our family while we were working there. And then there was no day off, and we had to prepare a lot of things. And also we had to clean the shelter or the place. We also had to clean the offices of our boss in that company. And it was about 3 months in that condition. The job order that I received, because the job order said that I had to be actually taking care of a grandmother, and I was in Taiwan that time. And then isn't actually the right job as described. So I work long hours. I was not allowed to use my cell phone. I didn't have a day off, and my documents, my legal documents, were taken away from me, and there were so many restrictions in Taiwan. So I worked in my master's house and also had to help the restaurant business that they had. And then when I got back from the restaurant, I had to do a lot of other chores, including ironing clothes and also doing dishes. And at 3:30, I had to wake up and then go back to work. And that basically the cycle that I was in. Next.
Next lagi, mohon maaf. Nah, pada saat saya di Taiwan, saya sempat
When I was
punya
in
kesempatan
Taiwan,
untuk belajar
I
di
had
ada
an
Mbak
opportunity
Nurul Koiriah
to
yang
learn
dulu
a
di
bit
ANC dan
about
mengorganisir teman-teman pekerja
migration.
migran di
But
Taiwan,
Nurul
sehingga saya
Khairiyah, and
belajar
also
dengan
there's
beliau
another
tentang apa
organization
itu hak-hak pekerja migran, apa
educating
itu
the
kewajiban
migrant
pekerja
workers. So I
migran,
learned a
harus
lot
ngapain
about the
kita
rights
sebagai
of
pekerja
migrant
migran, harus
workers and
ngapain
what should we
kita
do, what we
ketika
are
menjadi korban
entitled
itu seperti itu.
with,
Dan
and
hampir
when we are a
1 tahun
victim
lebih saya
of
belajar
trafficking,
berorganisasi
what
bersama
should we
dengan
do?
teman-teman pekerja
So
migran
it was
Indonesia di
about
Taiwan.
almost a year when I learned a lot about the importance of human rights, the importance of decent work, and so on and so forth. Next.
Selanjutnya. Nah, kemudian ketika saya sudah memiliki bekal ilmu dan juga melanjutkan
When
belajar
I learned a
berorganisasi di
lot, and
Serikat
then
Buruh
when I
Migran
thought that I
Indonesia, saya
had
kembali ke
quite a
kampung
lot of
halaman untuk
information and
mendirikan
knowledge, then I
kampung
returned
buruh
to
migran.
Indonesia,
Di kampung buruh migran
and
ini ada
I
banyak
was
sekali
back, or I am
aktivitasnya.
back
Kita
in
ada
my kampung or my
advokasi
village,
pendampingan
and I made
korban,
this
kemudian
kampung
kita juga
buruh migran or migrant
memfasilitasi
worker village.
konsultasi ataupun
We do a lot
informasi
of things,
ketika
including
warga akan
facilitating
bekerja
the
ke luar
migrant
negeri,
workers
juga
and
ini
also
menjadi tempat
educating
untuk
the
riset bagi teman-teman
potential
mahasiswa,
migrant
baik
workers. This
di
is also a
dalam
research
negeri
center
maupun di
for
luar negeri.
students
Kemudian di
from
situ juga
Indonesia
ada
and
PAUD
also
khusus untuk
from
anak-anak migran.
overseas.
Kita
We all have
gratiskan
early
dari
childhood
sejak
education
tahun
center
2010 sampai
for the
sekarang,
children
dan juga
of
kita ada
migrant
diskusi
workers,
bulanan
and it
untuk
was since
mantan-mantan pekerja
2007 up
migran,
until now. We
dan
also have
juga
monthly
mereka
discussions
kita
for
bantu untuk
ex
pemberdayaan
migrant
ekonomi.
workers.
Mereka
We also help
memiliki
the
kelompok simpan
families with their
pinjam,
finances
kemudian
and also
mereka
with economy. We also
mendirikan
have
kelompok untuk
this
unit usaha produksi
cooperative. We
limbah
also
briket,
have
dan juga mereka
production
juga
line
punya
here.
toko sembako
Basically, we
sekarang, dan juga
recycle
punya koperasi
the
SDM di Wonosobo.
plywood waste,
Kemudian kita
and
juga
we
teman-teman sudah memiliki
produce
komisi
some
sampah
products
mandis
there.
yang dulu
And some of the people there also planted Cavendish bananas. It was an assistance from an organization from Jakarta. There was also some farms or chicken farms. And in Kampung Migran, we also have free ambulance for those in need of emergency services, and also for those migrants just returned from overseas, and if they cannot go to their house or their own village, or if they don't have any money, we help them or we help them return to their home safely. We also have regulations at our village on the prevention of TIP. And this is also the first village in Indonesia that has come initiative. But now we also are very happy to share the information that many other villages have regulations on preventions of TI, and the Ministry of Manpower from Indonesia also consulted me and also met me to discuss about TIP cases and also my experience. So other type of work that we have just produced is the Rindu Utami film. That is basically about a child or a children where their mothers work as migrant workers, and also about teenagers in Indonesia. They dream of better life, but instead of getting better life, they are victims of TIP. Together with Basarnas, also with another organization at the national level, also produced another movie, Sandung Lala, and also another movie about migrant workers' life. Yeah, we have quite many activities in our village. We also encourage the Office for Manpower at the district level to produce a guideline and also a pocketbook for their citizens so they can be safe from TIP. And this is in Wonosobo district in Central Java. Next.
Nah, saat ini saya merasa saya masih di bawah titik kebodohan dan saya masih harus
I feel that I still need
belajar dengan
to learn a
apapun,
lot.
belajar dengan
I
siapapun,
feel sometimes I'm
belajar
still
tentang apapun dan dimanapun.
uninformed,
Dan saat ini
and I
juga
like to
saya
study.
masih
I like to
melanjutkan
learn,
sekolah
to
di
learn about
Fakultas Hukum
anything. Now
Universitas
I am
Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, dan
undertaking
kebetulan
Magister
universitas
of
ini
Law
juga
or Master
mendirikan
of Law
Human Resource Center, dan
in
saya
one
masuk
of
di
local
dalamnya
universities
sebagai
here.
dewan pakar di dalam
I
divisi ini.
also am
Next.
part of the expert committee structure in the university.
Boleh dilanjutkan?
Can we continue to the next slide, please?
Nah, ini sekolahnya dan ini
And this is
sekolah
the
khusus
early
untuk anak-anak
childhood
pekerja
center.
migran, dan
This
juga
is
kami
the
ingin
school for migrant workers' children.
PKBM atau kejar paket yang difasilitasi oleh
I
PKBM kami
also
secara
want
gratis, dan kita
to
juga
establish
sudah bekerja sama dengan
the
salah satu PKBM yang sudah
another
menyediakan
education center, basically for those who drop
483
out,
siswa
so
yang
they can
mengikuti
continue to
belajar
get
kejar
their
paket A, kejar
academic
paket B, dan
certificate.
kejar paket
It
C
is like
secara
an open school,
internasional, dan
basically.
itu secara
And
online.
we
Bahkan
can
yang
also
ingin
have
bekerja
international
migran di luar
curriculum
negeri
and national
bisa
curriculum.
mengakses
So
sekolah
the
gratis
migrant
ini.
workers living overseas at the moment can also have free access to this platform.
Next.
Next one.
Saya juga salah satu drafter untuk revisi
I'm also
Undang-Undang
one of the
39
drafters
tahun
for Law Number 39,
2004 sampai menjadi
2004
Undang-Undang Nomor 18
law.
tahun 2017 selama 10 tahun. Dan
So
ya, itu
I
yang
participated for 10
kecil
years
yang saya
in the
lakukan,
amendment
dan
of
belum bisa
this
banyak hal yang bisa saya
law.
lakukan, hanya minta
So
doanya
basically
dan
that's my
supportnya,
story,
mudah-mudahan saya terus
and
itu
please wish
bermanfaat
me
untuk
well
yang
and
lain,
wish me
terutama
luck.
teman-teman pekerja
And
migran, dan
I
khususnya
will keep
untuk
supporting other people,
teman-teman yang
especially for
mengalami
migrant workers,
kekerasan atau
especially
menjadi korban
those
trafficking.
experiencing
Terima kasih.
trafficking in person. Thank you so much.
Saya kembalikan lagi.
Thank you so much, Maisida Salas. That was really very enlightening to hear your story. So, an excellent presentation. Those pictures tell 1,000 words, and at first I was just looking at the pictures. Now we know the stories behind those pictures. So thank you so much for sharing not only about life of a survivor, but also the families that are left behind by the survivors, and looking at what you're doing. I mean, with that school for the children of migrant workers. It's very, very enriching to know about that, a very fresh perspective as well. So thank you so much, Maisida Salas. And for our audience, should you feel any distress, please contact any relevant support services or email us at the info@ASEAN-ACT.org so that we make appropriate referrals should you feel the need to. My colleague Chanapat has posted the email address in the chat box. So I'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Abdus Salam. He's a Survivor Empowerment and Communications Officer of the Humanity Research Consultancy. He is based in Bangladesh. Mr. Salam is a survivor leader with lived experience in human trafficking and cyber slavery. After his trafficking experience, he dedicated himself to combating human trafficking and modern slavery. As the Survivor Empowerment and Communications Officer of HRC, he has worked on several projects related to understanding survivors' journeys and survivors' empowerment, including HRC's participatory research project in Bangladesh with a group of survivors. He has liaised for the rescue and repatriation and reintegration of over 40 survivors. He is a bachelor degree holder in textile engineering. Salam, please, you have the floor.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thank you, Berlin, for the introduction. Yeah, so today I will talk about survivor leadership, journey of survivor group, and the kind of impact survivor can make in counter trafficking sector. So basically, I will share my journey in counter trafficking today. So the place today I am here from the order that after being trafficking or going through the horrible experience of trafficking, every survivor suffer from stigma. Everyone try hard to overcome that situation. Some people easily able to overcome that, but some struggle. I am no exception of them. A few key things that actually work behind of my journey here today. First of all, I'll talk about my family. Like after going through the trafficking situation, most of the time, survivors they face criticism and rejection from their family in the beginning. But fortunately, my family they never blamed me or they never allowed me to feel like anything bad happened to me. Even they actually encouraged me in every single step of my reintegration, putting me in all the ways to integrate in our society. The second thing is my job. So I'm very confused, like which one should I ask my family or because after I returned my home, I get a well-paid job immediately. And when I ensured that I had a sustained way to make money to support my family, which was the reason first place I migrated, then I got a huge relief, a burden from my head. If I talk about my journey's highlights so far, in the beginning, when I started with our organization, Humanity Research Consultancy, I had no idea about the human trafficking and modern slavery. But when I started exploring some online trainings and our publication, I able to understand the magnitude of this organized crime. And I also realized there are a lack of people like me who can speak for survivors, who can become an advocate for survivors, and who can raise survivor voice in the policymaking level. And in my 2 years careers, I believe I got pretty success in this sector. Like I have been interviewed by several international media. I spoke in several international conferences and policy dialogues, while policymakers are very willing to hear from the survivors directly. And if I talk about this year, actually, sequentially, this year I was invited from UN to speak in a UN event in Vienna. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that in person, but our organization presented my video speech there. This was not only the first time any survivor heard in this kind of closed door meeting, also this was the first time a survivor voice heard in unity meeting where a person speak outside of state party delegations. So I'm very happy about that. And if I talk about my experience, what actually shaped me today, I think all the survivors who are working in this counter trafficking sector and started raising their voice, I think everyone will share a common goal, and that is we want no one should suffer the way we did. And that's why not only me, as I said, every survivor who are working, they are coming day by day in the top positions and contributing in policies. And if I talk about my empowerment journey, I would like to give all the credits to all of my colleagues that I have been working with, especially my colleagues from Humanity Research Consultancy, who never actually underestimate me or gave me any special treatment, or like they never allow me to realize I'm different or compared to them, that something they can do and I cannot do. Instead of that, they always supported me to do meaningful things. And they also told me, okay, you are the you are the person among us who have the first-hand experience of human trafficking. We may have knowledge more about the issue, but you are the one who have the first-hand experience. And what is the outcome? Ultimately, as you said, in my just 2 years careers, I able to provide direct support more than 40 survivors with their rescue, repatriation, and reintegration, which is a great feeling. Lastly, I will talk about my experience from policymakers' response when they heard from survivors. So far, my experience is great working with policymakers. They are very eager to hear from directly from survivors, and they are very willing to fulfill their expectation. But so far, I find two different kind of people in policymaking. One, first kind of people, they think like survivors are very strong, powerful, and they should come and speak and raise their voice in the policymaking level. And they believe in survivor leadership. They believe survivor leadership can make huge positive change in counter trafficking sector. And second kind of people, they think survivors are those individuals who need help, support, and care, and they cannot make the right decision for themselves. That's why many of them want to do babysitting for survivors. I may be wrong for the second kind of persons, but I really admire the first kind of peoples. And I really want to change the thinking perspective of second kind of persons. So I would like to have some question in question and answer section. Yeah. So back to you, Darlene.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salam. Yes, we would love to have you in the question and answer portion. And thank you for sharing with us your experience and telling us how having a strong family support, community support, economic freedom, and having your voices heard can be an example of an empowerment process, no? Or can be very empowering, as it was an experience for you. So very interesting too that you mentioned about people at the policy level and how we want them to know more about your stories. Okay. All right. We hope to see you. Please stay with us in the question and answer. Thank you, Mr. Salam. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker. He is Mr. Hor Kosal, the National Director of Chabdai Coalition, which is based in Cambodia. So Mr. Kosal has a master's degree in public management and rural development, and which brings over 20 years of extensive experience in effective leadership and management within civil society organizations. His experience Our expertise encompasses prevention, intervention, and protection strategies with a strong focus on advocacy, social protection, child safeguarding, and combating human trafficking and modern slavery, including abuse and exploitation. And this is both in Cambodia and internationally. His career spans from successfully managing various grants from the USAID, EU, SIDA, the AusAid, and of course UK Aid, to collaborating with several other international NGOs on humanitarian initiatives, particularly those aimed at eradicating human trafficking and exploitation. His impressive background includes experience in organizational grant and project management, proposal development, and financial oversight with strong leadership and monitoring and evaluation practices. The floor is yours, Mr. Cosal.
Okay, thank you so much. I can say good morning, good afternoon, good evening from the Cambodia as well. Okay, thank you so much. This is my privilege to be a part of this webinar, and yes, right. Thank for our excellency and our two speakers that already provided us history and also some we can say very practical common understanding each other. So before I study, I just have one point that the important for my participation in this webinar is important. I think that right now is everyone aware of the challenges and aware of the issue related to the survival of human trafficking. Everyone aware, everyone understand clearly about their challenging, their problem. But only one issue that I think, based on my experience, I think we are lack of opportunity for creation of the opportunity for our survivors. I mean that in my presentation, okay, move forward, please. Yes. Yes, this is just only what Chap Dive is look like. We are in the same of the NGO in Cambodia that we really want to see a community free of the modern slavery or any form of abuse. Okay, continue, please. Yes, this is our co-value. Yes, Chapda is like a coalition and working together with more than 50 NGO in Cambodia. We are from the same common vision and mission together to fight with human trafficking and also any part of prevention. So our co-value is just only focusing on connection, collaboration, and especially for empowerment. The last point is important that we are faith inspires that we try to engage all the religious religion together here to make sure that we have a comprehensive networking. Okay, continue, please. Yes, continue, please. Just only this is our chapter, mean that join hands. Please continue. We have 4 hands together, and one hand we focusing on the NGO members, another hand we focusing on the collaboration with the government and from national to subnational level. Another hand we work directly with the survivor that you already aware of the survivor history that already presented by our 2 panelists. And last is we working together with the community, especially for the parent or any part of family or the survivor that they are able to support survivors. That teaches only that we call chap dai because we join hand together like that here for hand. Just continue, please. Yes. So totally chap dai has started in Cambodia in 2005. And then we working all 25 provinces in Cambodia by collaborating or coordinating to support the human trafficking and modern slavery victims. So at the beginning and until now, more than 2,000 survivors of this human trafficking and modern slavery and exploiting have been reused and restored. So I think that the most important, like everyone aware that I told you why we say everyone aware, because that human trafficking is not only in Cambodia, but it global the problem, global crisis. And we can say that not only Cambodia, not only in Philippines or not only in Asian country, but also any people around the world have to be aware and have to be involved in this work as well here. Please continue, please. Yes, I just want to tell you that here. So why I say that very important this opportunity for Chapdai. On behalf of Chapdai, I think that how many percent of these survivor can stand like both survivor already talking in this webinar? Based on our history and based on our experience, only 5% of all restore survivor that they are able to stand up again. They stand again mean that they can be the leading position, or they can be the very we can say brave enough to bring back for all what they experience for making their community and making their policy maker aware about that here. This is just only small from our experience, but I don't know exactly because we do not have any survey on that here. But just I highlight it about this because I think now the time for us to create opportunity for our survivors. This is very important that why this the voice of survivors is important. Because based on 19-year experience of Chapdai, we observed that only around 5% of all restored survivors, they are back to the field of human trafficking fighting. They are the part of peer educator. They are the part of the advocacy channel. They're part of this giving back to their community about what they want to cover or prevent from any part of human trafficking. So this point, the first point is important that I can share with all the participants here that you very important that if we do not have any specific projects, but at least that we are the part of creation of the opportunity for our survivors. At the end of my slide that I have the initiate of the we call survival leadership method that I think that not very successful, but I can say that it is a part of that the experience that you can share, you can learn. And Chapdai very happy to be a part of the fully providing you more about this tool. Second, we have observed that why we say the empowerment of the movement is very important. This is a part of our commitment that advocacy is a very effective, at least survivor themselves standing, and then they can say that because that rather than we just only from me and 25-year experience working in Cambodia on this, but I still not I can say that not the one who can provide the need of the survivors, because from one survivor to one survivor, not the same need, so different need. So this is just only that we can empower them to make sure that they are able to support their community. And then for Chapdai, we stand on one of the motto. We can say that survivors are fully participating in their own prevention and protection. This is very important model that we can say that peer-to-peer educator, effective announcer, this is only survivors are very effective. This is their voice. Second, they also most of them, they are the part of reporting mechanism at the community level, because that they experience all the part of the component of human trafficking or any the part of the abusing, like Salam and Salas mentioned. So they can identify. So they are easy to report to the local authority or any part of the social protection mechanism when they observe that their community or they observe their family member or their neighbor or their friend or something like that here. It is very important that why we try to empower, they are able to support their community back here. And then this is just important that I noted as well here that I think that right now, what we have to do is that we have to end all the cycle of the human trafficking. It means that we do not, I know that the protection is important, but also that we have to be able to invest more and more on prevention side, not to let our survivor re-victimize, not to let our survivor to go again and again at the risky area. Like already example from Salas. Already Salas mentioned that here 1 and 2 times already that she experienced it. So why is it to move again and again like that here? This is not, we cannot blame. This is the reality of the need of the people at the community. So that's very important for everyone to pay attention on prevention side here. Survivor also here, they are the part of the re-victimize as well here. Last but not the least, it's important that we can say right now we are facing big challenging from of the legal system. I don't mean that Cambodia do not have any court, but here it means that for example, this is just only our commitment with the government as well, that we want to see that civils compensation as important for retro back to the justice that after the criminal court proceed finish. So this just only the part that we want to make sure that the justice will be back to our survivors. Just only, not only that repatriation, not only that deporting, not only that reintegration, and then everything just ending. So we found that many survivors cannot be back for claiming their justice, but they just only let's forget it. So the trauma happened to their feeling here. So this is very, very risky for them to be, they can suicide sometimes as one if we do not have the proper. So we more harmful and more the impact to their life as well here. So the last is what we have to do is to make sure that the voice of survivor being heard. That is just only that my chapter, sorry, back here, sorry. Back, please. It's important. Yes, right. That I just want to give you one scenario that why Chapdai said that we create the opportunity for survivors. Because Chapdai model just only working directly with the survivor, right? I told you already, more than 2,000 already here. So based on our experience, we know that here cannot be just only provide the social service support and then survivor can stand. No, like that here. We have observed that here, the most important that survivor can be backed by our direct supporting, direct building capacity. So we have 3 levels of the survivor engagement in their community, in their action, in their prevention, in their protection. So at this stage, we have proper design by the engagement mechanism, engagement strategy to make sure that survivors are including all from part of their experience. At the first stage, we call that survivor care forum. So any survivor can join this forum by following by our clear structure and clear manual. And so after they start with this first session, they can come to the second session that we call survivor learning group. That's important that the survivor can more deeply understanding about their skill, facilitation skill, or something like that's one. And then we try to continue right now to make sure that they are becoming the leader role. That's just only that I told you that how many percentage are from the beginning to the end of the just only small thing that survivor can become the leader here. So back to my words, I still say again, we have to focusing on our possibility to create the opportunity for our survivors. We cannot say that, we cannot reject that, okay, you are finished by my case management support, so finished, let's go. That just only, we have to create another opportunity for survivors. Just only thing here. Okay, continue. I think that not very different from other, just only what we have learned from so far from the practical, and so this is we can share with you and also survivor as well here. Like I say again and again that here for Chapdai, we stand on our principle that here survivor are engaged fully and participate fully in their own prevention and protection. This is just only what we have been doing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, just only that we, based on our experience and our impact implementation project. I do have you all. I think that's all from me. Welcome, happy to have any question, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kosal. We will have the question and answer after the poll results are presented. So thank you. That was a very comprehensive presentation. It's amazing what your NGO has done in supporting the survivors while respecting their decisions and, of course, helping build the capacity of the community in improving their responses and survivor engagement strategies. So thank you, Mr. Kosal. Well, now, with our last, but that's certainly not the least speaker, a dear friend who I met in 2018, Ms. Chandra Woworontil, who is the founder and CEO of Mentari. She's also a former member of the U.S. Advisory Council. So Sandra, as a survivor, is a fierce global advocate against gender-based violence who fights human trafficking through raising awareness, education, training, advocacy, legislation, lobbying, and empowerment. Chandra holds a bachelor's degree in finance and banking management, and her last position in Indonesia was an international money market trader and manager of the Treasury Department of an international bank. So she left her job in 2001, traveled to the United States for an employment opportunity in a hotel in Chicago, but was kidnapped and sold into the underground sex trade in America. She managed to escape and collaborated to prosecute her traffickers. In her road to recovery, she began her advocacy work against human trafficking and founded Mentari, which is based in New York, to help victims and survivors. She testified before the U.S. Senate and was appointed by President Barack Obama to be the first member of the U.S. Advisory Council on Human Trafficking. She was a New Jersey State Commissioner, consultant, and advisor for numerous government agencies. She initiated the establishment of the OSCE ODHR International Survivor Advisory Council in 2021. Chandra received numerous awards for her work in the ambassador of the Why Slavery to the United Nations. She lives in New York with her family. Chandra, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Darlene, my sweetheart. Thank you to the organizer, ASEAN-ACT, which is amazing that can find me. I'm in New York, but I'm still Indonesian. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. And also selamat siang buat fellow yang
Good afternoon to our
join
Indonesian
webinar
fellow
ini.
joining our webinar today.
Pertama-tama, saya ucapkan selamat datang ke webinar ini.
First, welcome to this
my
webinar.
presentation is actually about survivor inclusion, but I would like to share about who actually Chandra. So any activities, example, a drought, famine, conflict, war, and then sporting event or any natural disaster will affect human trafficking activity and also including migration and immigration. My case was started when there was a political turbulence in Indonesia, which is famous with Reformation 1998, which is I lost my job as a banker and it was difficult to find a job. And I would like to find any opportunity overseas because of it wasn't good in Indonesia at that time with the violence. It was just scary at that time. If everybody remember that moment, so I got an opportunity through the newspaper, which is stating 6-month job in Japan, in Hong Kong, in many different countries. And I was thinking like United States is the place, like a dream, dreamland, dream for everybody who don't live in the state, right? Because why? Because of the movie. When we see movie, it's just so excited, blonde hair, blue eyes, and it attracted me to apply to work in the United States. And beside the food, the building, the culture is just so amazing, especially for us who live in Asia. And I thought it was a good decision, but actually it wasn't. After I paid $3,000 for the job, actually I went to New York as the destination with the work location in Chicago. So I was taken, kidnapped, and I was bought and sold into underground sex business. And I escaped, and I was able to collaborate with law enforcement and also with organization that helped me to prosecute the trafficker, to assist law enforcement and also the district attorney to put them into into punishment. And I started my life. It wasn't easy because of not many people understand that I was a victim. Even I was victimized when I was in the hospital. When they took me to the hospital, they said, she is prostitute. I'm not prostitute. I was so angry. I was prostituted woman. I'm not prostitute. And then another nurse said, oh, she is sex worker. Actually, I was so distressed at that time because of I'm not a sex worker. I was a victim, and I was a victim. So learning from my process, accessing the support, accessing the services, accessing the justice, and also immigration, it takes a lot. And it affects me mentally and also physically. I already have a trauma from the trafficking experience. And then in my process to be in a freedom, in a fully freedom, I also traumatized with the system. And lesson learned, I established my organization to fulfill the gap because of someone need to stand up and do something. So I first started in 2004, rescuing, helping people that trafficked by diplomat, by rich people, also from the brothel, escape and live in my house. So I said, we cannot. And I met a few people, including Sufyan. You cannot do this. You have to establish organization. On the process, establishing organization, I found out that we need a support system. And I established Voices of Hope, which is a place or a platform for us to share about our trauma, about learning from each other. And finally, I think my bio is already stating. I would like to move to my presentation. Next slide, please. So I would like to talk about inclusivity, actually, because why? Victim become a survivor is a journey. It's a journey. Imagine if you put yourself in their shoes and walk together, you will understand that each individual survivor have a unique life experience, work experience, background experience, and it allows survivor to participate at the table, at the center of the table, and lead the table to design program practices, policies, law, monitoring, and also evaluation. You need survivor to evaluate your program. It's not only designing. And this is the most important is give them opportunity. If you don't give them opportunity, you will never find a survivor have opportunity to be a leader. And also opportunity to grow and also development. It takes support And I truly respect and acknowledge the presentation from ASEC Lillian. Thank you. It is amazing, amazing program and also a system that you already established beside the story that happening like Maisida, Salam. It's all actually make anti-trafficking, more rich, and it can be flourish if we come together, partnership. And also, Mr. Hoy gave like very details, comprehensive that we might able to replicate also in our work. But one that I want to encourage everybody is this. If you want to engage a survivor, make sure there will be a respect, professionalism, non-tokenization. This is often tokenization. Should be trauma-informed. Should be a boundary and space. This happen if you will give them empathy, not sympathy. Example, just trust them, listen to them, be listener. Give them opportunity to have the mic to speak. And be patient, give them space. And also, survivor is more than story. They are more than story. And story is not for entertainment. The life story is not entertaining all of us. The story is lesson learned for us to do something better, to end and to eradicate human trafficking globally. This story will enrich our work. This story will help us to create anything from program, protection, and also policy, and also best practices. And every country different. If they can give us information, why don't we collaborate in between survivor and survivor, survivor with civil society, survivor with private sector, survivor with the government, and all together become a task force. Become a task force to fight human trafficking. And also, how we center survivor in engagement to make sure that they are being heard. And the engagement should be a stable and also sustainable and empowering, not judgmental. And also using the right word, empower, empathy, not using sympathy. And also don't judge, don't use the word example, sex work, sex worker, restoration. And we go through the word restoration. Restoration is for the, what is that? Cable. It's for the table. It's for the building. Excuse me a little bit. I think my battery is almost drained. So make sure we can talk to them. What is the best to call them? Because of this is no longer survivor. They are human beings. Sometimes we put them in the box. Sometimes this is the problem with our society, with us. We put survivor in the box. Oh, they are survivor. No, they are human beings. And I always often told people that engage with me, don't give me a label survivor, but call my name. My name is Chandra. This is important for us to knowledge. They have name. They are not a survivor, but call them the name. And also, the engagement is from, can be behind, can be in front line. Don't think if survivor leader only speaking, only lobbyists. No, they can be in behind the wall. They just want to be a part of the movement. They just want to give their voice through research, through example advising, conversation, and just knowledge. Walk with them, give them opportunity, and also let's address this together. It's not only 3P like the protocol, prevention, protection, and punishment, but 2009 Hillary Clinton introduced partnership, but now it's 5P. Prevention, protection, prosecution, partnership, and policy to intervene. Without policy, like we are children without the parent. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chandra. That was really, really exciting to hear all of your stories. And of course, very insightful story about survivor inclusion and empowerment. So, and thank you for enlightening us as well on the use of sensitive language, knowing the distinction between what is prostituted and what is a prostitute, and that telling us that inclusion is not just a one-time engagement with a survivor for the sake of compliance, but really it's a journey, giving the survivor an opportunity to make an impact, to make a difference in policy, in practice, and in implementation of the law. So thank you again, Chandra. And of course, let us go back to the polls, and we will invite all our speakers to join us in the room. Because now let us look at the poll results, and I would be requesting each one of our speakers to give their 2-minute comment on the results of this poll questions. You may just comment on one or both of the questions results. So let me again read the poll results for purposes of translation. So on poll question number 1, what is the biggest challenge in involving survivors in policymaking process? So we have our top answer is building trust and, providing adequate support and resources, which garnered 30%. Followed by building trust and collaboration at 28%, and at 25%, ensuring their safety and privacy, and lastly at 17%, overcoming stigma and discrimination. So we had 101 respondents who answered this poll question number 1. Then of 2, we have 109 respondents and who answered on the question, what measures must be prioritized to enhance survivor engagement in counter-trafficking initiatives? So we have at 45% increasing funding for survivor support programs, followed by at 24%, enhancing training for stakeholders on trauma-informed care. Then at 23%, creating more platforms for survivor voices. And lastly, at 8%, establishing advisory councils. So there you go. You can see it on the board. So maybe we can start this time from you, Chandra, and then all the way back to ASEC Lilian to give their comments. So Chandra, could you kindly share us your thoughts on this poll results?
Okay, thank you, Darlene, for putting me on the first. The biggest challenge in involving survivors in the policy making process is actually overcoming stigma and discrimination. I mentioned in my presentation that sometimes we don't have any opportunity. So this is the challenge because of advocate and leader who are not survivors, sometimes just think, oh, this is our work, we don't need them. Actually, this is a challenge. Everything should be survivor informed. Everything should be survivor engagement because of how you do the work without me, without us, that affected the first hand. How you create policy without me, people that affected by human trafficking. So I just leave it there to give opportunity to other people. So it will be growing, overcoming stigma. And then the second is providing adequate support and resources, and then move to building trust and collaboration. And then the next is ensuring the safety and privacy. So this is my response to number one. Number two is opposite. If you want to enhance survivor engagement, you should establish advisory council, because initiative could be in counter trafficking initiative, could be through the task force, could be to the government, could be from NGO, because NGO also can hire advisory board or advisory council. And then increasing is later on, but is advisory, because of you need to be you need to be you need to be aware that they are the people that affected. Yes, you need funding to support them, to support the program, but to enhance is we need them to sit together at the table, leading the table and be the center of the table. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for your thoughts on this. Can we call on Mr. Kosal to give his thoughts as well?
Thank you so much. Actually, I think that this question very important for everyone here. I know that everyone aware of the answer, but for me, and question number one, I think that building trust and collaboration is the big challenging for implementer and also for the practitioner and the community as well, because that I can say building trust is not like our last speaker mentioned clearly about the people who work directly with the survivor, the one that can be attracted to the survivor. So at least that they are the part of psychologists, they are experienced on trauma-informed care or something like that here. So we can say that how many is the graduated university from psychologists, they are willing to go back to their community, their village. How many? So this question can be raised, and also I also advocate with the government as well here anytime where I speak, to make sure that here this is very important. They are the one who can make trust to the community, to the survivors. And then sometimes that collaboration also among CSO are still very, very problem. Not saying about the collaboration with this local authority or with the state or with the government. Just only that our NGO are the same, that sometimes that we are not on the same page of the collaboration. I mean that here sometimes some NGO they still focusing on their target and they are on their vision and mission, but they are forgetting that what they are doing is for our survivor, or for only that making sure that survivor are able to raise a question or to raise their voice. Then back to second question, I think that this is important because that the engagement of the survivor, I still support the high rate as well. I'm sorry, doctor, that the increasing fund here, I just mean that right now, how many donors they are understanding about the way to support the survivors. $1,000 spent just only recover for 5 life, 5 survivor. When reporting to them, say they asking only 5. I spent $1,000 already here. That is just only challenging right now. That is why that increasing funding and for survivor supporting program, like holistic support, like the whole journey, like practical and the basic need of survivors was important. Following by, I support the last speaker. I met you in Bali, right? I always talk to you as well about that here. Yes, right. This is important in the networking. For survivor networking, we need to have advisory council for survivor. They are the one who can create a lot of these feeling, emotion of the survivor to raise and to be brave enough to stand. When they stand, we can do everything. At the beginning, that we do not have enough capacity to make their standing again. That is why that they are becoming the high risk again. So what I say again here, this is need a lot of contribution, not only NGO, but also political will must be in this part of this as well. Okay, thank you so much. Just give the floor back to an panelist. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kosal, for your thoughts. And then we now call Mr. Salam.
Thank you, Darlene. Actually, I agree with Chandra about the first question. This question itself, it's like discriminating. So, yeah, like overcome stigma and discrimination should be the first prioritize, because even a survivor, if overcome from the stigma, and if they started working, and if their colleagues discriminate them, okay, you were different, you were special, so the things we can do, you cannot do. So if they face this kind of discrimination, they will not be able to overcome that, and they will be again traumatized by that situation. And after that, I will say, yeah, building trust and collaboration between survivor and others, and yeah, providing support and resources that survivor need to grow in their places. And then I will share, yeah, put the safety and privacy of survivors. About the second question, what measure must prioritized in enhancing survivor engagement in counter trafficking initiatives? Yeah, I agree with the increasing fund for survivor support program, but I'm little bit disagree with the option increasing funding for survivor support programs. It could be increasing funding for survivors, because I have seen in many program where survivors works, either they works voluntarily, either they paid very low. So when we'll pay survivors well, they will motivate to work there more and more. So I think that could be a little bit changing. And yeah, then I'll put establishing advisory council. So again, agree with Chandra. So if in a room we have same kind of mindset of people who suffer through the same kind of situation, and who have the same goal to share, like changing the world and fighting on particular uh, situation, I think that can create, yeah, more good things and positive impact. Then yeah, creating more platforms for survivor voice. Yeah, if we cannot create the pipeline for survivors to come up in the leading position, then how we can ensure that? So that can be the third prioritize for the second question. And then I will yeah, put the enhancing training for stakeholders on trauma informed care. Yeah,
Mhm.
back to you, Darlene.
Thank you, Mr. Kosal. Thank you for that. And we now call Salas to share her thoughts.
Ya, baik. Terima kasih.
Thank
Bagi
you.
saya yang terutama itu yang
For
harus
me,
disuburkan adalah
I think
kepedulian
we can nurture first and foremost is the awareness and also the care for the survivors and also for law enforcement. People also care about
kalau kita
education
berpikir untuk
and the right
kita
informations about
menyelesaikan atau
TIP.
menuntaskan
So if we
persoalan-persoalan
think
human
about
trafficking,
addressing
tentu kita
issues
tidak
related
bisa
to human
melakukan
trafficking,
hal sendirian, tetapi
this
kita
will
harus
not
berkolaborasi,
be
baik
separated from
kolaborasi dengan pemerintah ataupun
collaboration.
kolaborasi
We need to collaborate
dengan
with the
NGO,
government
baik
or
itu nasional
sectors and
maupun
also
internasional.
international NGO and
Dalam hal
local
ini ketika
NGOs.
menyusun kebijakan,
And
baik
in this
itu untuk
context, when we are making
kebijakan
the
anggaran
policy
ataupun
for
kebijakan yang
budgeting
lainnya yang
or
harus
other
disepakati
elements
adalah ada
of governance,
keterlibatan
we
teman-teman
need to agree
survivor, karena
that
yang
we have to
merasakan
involve
kami
survivors
yang
or the
menjadi korban
survivor
dan yang tahu
community
akan
because
kebetulan
they
adalah
have the
teman-teman
first-hand
korban.
experience.
Dan
We
yang
also
harus
understand the
ditekankan
needs of
adalah bahwa
survivors. And what we
segala
need to
kebijakan itu
emphasize
adalah
that all
muncul
policies
sebagai
can be made
representatif dari
to
teman-teman korban
represent
trafficking
the
maupun
voices of
korban-korban
survivors
penyintas tindak pidana
and also
perdagangan orang.
victims of
Jadi
TIP.
kalau kita ingin ada perubahan, mari kita
If we
suburkan
want to see a
kepedulian
change,
kita. Dan
let's
kalau tidak
nurture
mau
our
menyuburkan
care.
kepedulian,
Let's
maka mimpi dan harapan
also
kita
raise
tidak
our
akan pernah
awareness.
menjadi
Without
nyata.
it, our dreams will never come
Itu
true.
saja. Terima
That
kasih.
will be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salas, for your thoughts on the poll results. So now we call on Asek Lilian to give her thoughts as well. Asek?
Hi, thank you very much. Okay. The voices of our survivors are really worth emulating. And their experiences hold the key to understanding the problem at its core and crafting solutions that work. With regard to law enforcement and addressing transnational crime perspective, the survivors can identify specific recruitment tactics and mapping TIP patterns, but of course with consent. And the survivors may also share what worked and what didn't during the rescue, and helping law enforcement improve future operations. And in the Philippines, we have been committed to enhance survivor support service through, as mentioned earlier, through a whole of society and the whole of nation approach. And not to forget to involve the law enforcement officers, the social workers, and also the policymakers to be aware on what is really happening in various trafficking in persons situationer. The inclusion of the mandatory services to the trafficking in person or TIP victim under our TIP law, of course, which include legal services. This is actually one of the Philippines implemented, no, the inclusion of the mandatory services to TIP victim under our TIP law. Of course, that includes the legal services, and also increase of resources yearly to implement particularly the protective aspect of our anti-TIP program. So we are really pushing for all the local government units for them to be informed and for them to be involved as our frontliners also at the local level, because they are the ones implementing the policies and the laws provided by the central government and or the national government. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone. Those are very well said and very well thought of. So thank you for sharing. And of course, we'd like to thank our participants for sharing their thoughts as well on these points. And of course, these are from their respective perspectives as well, coming from different countries in the ASEAN region. So thank you again to our participants who participated. And now we will proceed to the question and answer, and we see a lot of questions in the Q&A box, and some are very specific to each one of you. I will give or invite my colleague Chenapat or Pom to join us, and also to moderate this Q&A with me. So Chenapat, please, can you read some of the questions for our speakers?
All right. Thank you, Attorney Darlene. And of course, as usual, we have lots of questions coming in from this very resourceful talk that we have with the survivors, as well as Her Excellency ASEC Lilian. Maybe one of the questions that we can try, because a lot of questions also have been directly answered by our panelists as well. One of the questions I would like to pick on here is on the prevention. And this one, I believe, is directly to Salas, and maybe I can also ask other of the participant panel to also join us in answering as well. But first of all, to you, Salas, this one, since you have been involved in awareness raising campaign, so what are your experience in terms of how well this awareness raising campaign has helped preventing the trafficking of migrant workers? Do you see the change, the trends, or the change in perhaps also the government practices in doing more work to make sure that people are not fall into the victimhood of forced among the migrant worker to become a forced labor. To you, Salas, thank you.
Ya, terima kasih. Contoh kecil yang kami
Thank you
lakukan
for the
bekerja sama
question.
dengan pemerintah
There's just
adalah
a simple, an example from
mensosialisasikan
us when we
pencegahan
work
tindak
with the government. We basically
pidana
conduct
perdagangan
a
orang ke
campaign
penampungan migran Indonesia
against
yang mereka
TIP.
sedang
So we
mempersiapkan atau
go
sedang
to
menjalani
different
pendidikan untuk
stations
bekerja ke luar
where
negeri.
Indonesian or
Kemudian
potential migrant
yang
workers
kedua,
are
dengan
trained
kita membagikan
to work
nabu
overseas.
yang di dalamnya
We
terdapat
also
informasi
equip
soal
them with a
bagaimana mencegah
book
tindak pidana
that
perdagangan orang
contains a
dan
lot of
juga mereka
information
mengambil
on
sikap
preventing
ketika
TIP
terdeteksi atau
and also
menyadari
how
bahwa dia
to
menjadi
make a
korban
decision
tindak
when
pidana
they
perdagangan orang.
identify that
Tentu
they
saja
are
itu
a
jauh
victim of
meminimalisir
TIP. At least
tindak pidana perdagangan
this
orang
gives them
baik yang
information
dilakukan
to
di
minimize
negara
the
kami sebelum berangkat maupun
people from
mereka
becoming
ketika sedang
a
berangkat
victim.
sedang bekerja di luar negeri.
So
Tentu
they
ini
have
hal
the
yang
background information
cukup
and
baik
what to expect
untuk kita
when
melakukan
they are about to deployed or to
sosialisasi
be
untuk
sent to other
meminimalisir
countries. And I
tindak
think a lot of campaigns
pidana
should also be
perdagangan
improved
orang
so that a
dari
lot of
mulai
people can be
proses
reached
penempatan sampai
and
mereka
they
kembali
understand
ke negara
about
penerimanya.
the decent
Kemudian
work and also they
kami
can come
juga
home
melakukan
safely
dengan
without becoming
media
a
film
victim
untuk
of
mensosialisasikan
TIP.
bagi
We all work
menggambarkan
together
perjalanan teman-teman
to
ketika akan
create
bekerja
another
ke luar negeri
format
ketika
of
tidak
campaign,
mengetahui
which is a
informasi
video or
soal
a film,
prosedur menjadi
so they
pekerja
can
migran
enjoy
yang
the film
aman,
and understand
soal
the procedure of
apa itu
becoming
TPPO dan
safe migrant
instrumen-instrumennya
workers.
bagaimana.
What are
Secara otomatis
TIP? What
film
are the
ini akan
elements of
mempermudah
TIP?
pemberian informasi kepada
Automatically, we
masyarakat
hope
luas
that this
untuk
give
mengetahui
better
bahwa tindak pidana
information
perdagangan orang
to
itu
many
sangat berbahaya
people
dan
and
penting sekali
also
untuk
to
dilakukan
warn people
pencegahannya.
about
Dan
the
juga
impacts and also the
media-media seperti
harms
media
of
sosial
TIP.
bisa kita
Social
melakukan
media
talk
also
show
is a
di
channel that
radio
we
maupun di
choose to
televisi itu
do our
juga sangat
campaigns.
efektif.
The
Dan
radio
saya yakin
show,
ini
TV
salah
shows
satu
are
upaya untuk
also very
pencegahan tindak
effective.
pidana
And
perdagangan
we
orang dengan
believe
mudah
that
dan
this
tidak
can
perlu
disseminate
menggunakan biaya yang
information to
cukup besar
many
gitu ya.
people and to
Itu
wider
saja.
audience without
Dan
spending
sorry,
too much
saya tambahkan
money
lagi
or without big
dengan
budget.
kita bersosialisasi
Another
tentu
thing
ini
is that
menjadi
by
bagian dari
conducting these
kontribusi kita
campaigns,
sebagai
this is
survivor
part of
terhadap
our contributions
negara
as part
membantu
of
pemerintah
survivor
dalam
community and
mensosialisasikan
also to help the
pencegahan tindak
government to
pidana
educate
perdagangan orang
people to
dan
prevent
juga
from
soal
becoming
migrasi
victims of
yang
TIP and
aman dan
also
kemudian
to work
berdampak
overseas
juga
safely.
banyak sekali desa-desa di
A lot of
Indonesia baik
villages in
desa,
Indonesia
kabupaten,
and
provinsi
districts
itu
and
sudah
provinces in
memiliki
Indonesia,
peraturan yang
they now have the regulation
mencegah
on
tindak pidana
preventing
perdagangan orang, baik itu
TP.
Perdes, Perda atau
They can
peraturan
also have
kabupaten atau
different levels of
peraturan
regulations,
daerah provinsi
starting
maupun
from
nasional
village
itu sekarang di
regulation
Indonesia
to
memang kondisi yang
national
cukup baik dan
regulation.
juga
The
sekarang
implementation is
Kementerian kami
considered
pun banyak
as
sekali
good,
dan ada khusus
and
untuk
then the
Kementerian
ministry
Penempatan Pekerja Migran
is
Indonesia
also
yang memiliki
very
semangat
actively
baru
involved
untuk terus
in
mensosialisasikan hal ini
implementation.
dan juga
And a lot of
melakukan
NGOs, a lot of
penyerbukan
stakeholders
pada
are
penampungan-penampungan
actively
yang
involved
ilegal
in
sehingga ini
preventing
akan menjadi
these
efek jerah bagi pelaku dan
TIP
akan
issues.
menjadi pembelajaran
We
bagi
even
pelaku-pelaku yang lainnya untuk tidak
go to
melanjutkan
different places to
kegiatan-kegiatan
basically
yang melanggar
search for
hukum
people
terutama
who are
untuk
potentially
tindak pidana
being
perdagangan
trafficked
orang ini.
or
Terima
to
kasih.
prevent people for going into that trap. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Salas. And yes, it's so interesting to hear that there's a prevention, there's regulation at the village and community level, and that should be something that ASEAN by we can look at the practices and different of how each ASEAN country they have their own specific way of system or the system or legislation that could be similar thing to prevent the trafficking at the local and really grassroots level. And maybe we need, I would like to also go to the second question. And this one, we have two similar questions that concerning the economic empowerment of the victim survivors. And maybe this question I would like to ask Chandra to maybe share with us on how do you think it is important to economically empower or address the economic issue of the survivor in order for them to take up the leadership in engaging with the government? Are there any best approach in supporting them effectively that you can maybe share with us or from your experience or your opinions? Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me the floor to answer. Yes, absolutely. Because when someone fall victims and traumatized and also having a difficult journey for her or his own freedom, fully freedom mean economic, living, and everything, like comprehensive. So what we need to do is to create program a safe, holistic, comprehensive, trauma-informed, and survivor center. This should be a skills or education because of some of the children can go to education. But for the adults, sometimes they don't want to go to education because of the ages and they pick to equip themselves with the skill. So from the skill set, we have to provide them with trauma-informed, everything like I mentioned. And then when we as an organization, like in my organization, just a sample. So we have culinary art program. Anything related with art is a platform, is a path for healing. And then after graduate culinary art program, we try to find them, the organization try to find them job, which is collaborative with our organization to make sure healing center workplace. So I type in the question that if you can look at FBA, Freedom Business Alliance score, I think it will help us to educate like private sector or a company to, to collaborate with organization to employ survivors. When they are sustained and stable with the income, they will be less vulnerable and it will protect them from victimization. It is important. But to engage, become advisor, become consultant, or engage with organization, NGO or government organization, they don't need to have a job. But sometimes depending of the level of engagement, sometimes if you want to develop health and mental health practice, you can engage them even though they are in the level of still vulnerable, because that's what you need to get the information to establish the action that you need. What is, if they come up from the trafficking, they confused, they don't have like strength, like having a low self-esteem, a lot of things going on. So you can start from there and then move forward in engagement. So don't give up. You have to find the model, okay, depending on geographic, demographic, your location, urban, suburban, or city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chandra. And I was going to ask also Kosal to also provide his thought. And so you already raised your hand. So please, Kosal, if you have more to put on from your experience as the organization working with survivor as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Champa. Okay, very important. I can say 100% agree. Yes, but we have to be careful that because that based on our experience, 85% of all the survivors of human trafficking, they are not able to stay in a community after the integration because the need. So the more they need, the high risk they are. And then after the high risk they are, they will become the re-victimization again, like Sandra mentioned. So importantly, we need a social worker. It is not a construction worker, a social worker. They are full skill and experience on career counseling at the first stage. It's most important here because that if we can make them at a community, they are safe 100%, not moving back to the high risk again. So how to keep them at the community? Only income. they are not children, they are the adult already. So that's why this is most important engagement from other sector, not only the government, but also private sector, community, survivors, NGO, that this is very important to make sure that our supply chain are workable. Our small business, our economic empowerment are working well with the context of community, not the context of your city, but the context of communities. Just only. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kosal. And unfortunately, we have so limited time, but we have so much to discuss about. I hope we can keep this conversation going and we can do more. I'm handing the floor back to you, Anthony Darlene, and thank you so much for having me moderating this session for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Pom. And much as really we want to ask more questions, but I'm glad that some of you have already responded to the questions in the chat box and even connecting to some of our participants through email. So thank you very much. I think I saw Salam and Chandra and some of you also answering some of the questions. That is much appreciated. And for some of our participants who might have some more questions, we will just send it to you should we receive more questions. Now, just maybe because we're really running out of time, I wish we had more time, but we're really running out of time. So could we ask your very shortest version of a takeaway or your last thoughts or reactions or that you want to share with our participants? No, I don't know. We would give 2 minutes, but maybe now just 1 minute. Your takeaways for our participants. So anyone can start, please. Mr. Sala, maybe you can start.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Darlene. So, yeah, so it's hard to say one thing, yeah, but yeah, I would like to say when you would like to talk about survival leadership, you want survival leadership in counter trafficking programs, then you have to avoid using survivor as tick box exercise. You should not make any decision for survivors. Instead of that, you should ask for their opinion and prioritize that. If it's related to survivors, yeah, that's one thing. Thank you, darling. Yeah, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Salam. Very well said. So maybe hear also from Ms. Salas.
Ya, terima kasih. Sebagai penutup, saya hanya ingin
Thank you.
mengingatkan kita
So
semua
just
bahwa
is a
perdagangan
closing
manusia
remark.
ini
I just
adalah
want to remind everyone
pelanggaran hak
that
asasi
trafficking in
manusia yang
person is a
sangat
violation
serius dan ini harus
against human
diberantas
rights, and
secara
it is a serious
bersama-sama.
crime
Ini
to
bukan hanya
fight it
persoalan
together.
hukum, tetapi
And this is
juga
not only about
masalah
legal
kemanusiaan yang
issue.
bisa
This is
mempengaruhi
about
kehidupan
humanity,
jutaan
and it
orang di
impacts
seluruh dunia,
millions of
termasuk
people
di
around the
negara
world,
masing-masing yang tadi
in
sudah hadir di sini.
every
Dan
country
kita
in the world,
memiliki
including
peran
in the
yang
ASEAN
cukup tinggi
region.
dalam menghentikan
Our
praktek-praktek
role
yang
is
tidak
quite
manusiawi,
significant to
praktek-praktek yang
stop
sangat kejam
the
ini,
inhuman
baik
practices,
melalui
the cruel
pengetahuan
practices,
ataupun
through sharing our
maupun melalui
knowledge,
tindakan yang nyata.
through
Jadi mari kita bekerja
doing
bersama-sama
our
untuk
real
menciptakan
actions.
lingkungan kita yang
So let's
aman,
work
yang
together to
bebas dari
create
perdagangan
safe,
manusia,
free
dan
from
meningkatkan
TIP
kesadaran dan
environment,
saling
and
mendukung
let's
terhadap
raise our
satu korban
awareness
dan korban lainnya
about
dalam
about the
mengedepankan hukum
harms
yang
of TIP. Let's
seadil-adilnya
support
tentunya. Dan
each other, and
pastikan
also
bahwa
let's
setiap
bring the perpetrators
individu
to
kita bisa
justice.
hidup
Make sure that
dengan
everyone can live
berkebebasan dan juga memiliki
with
martabat. Dan
freedom
mari
and also with
kita terus
dignity.
menjaga komitmen secara bersama-sama
Let's strengthen
untuk
our commitment
menangani persoalan
together
perdagangan
to
manusia di
address
dunia.
issues
Terima
related
kasih.
to TIP in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salas. Also very well thought of. So we can call on Mr. Kosal, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that it is very important for us to be a part of this work together right now. So my last word just only say again and again, now the challenge and the issue for the survival of human trafficking, everyone aware, not only the NGO, but also the government, any government or the Asian state, they are aware of the issue clearly. But the big obstacle or the matter for us is that how we can move forward at a common understanding the same way or not very different for making sure that survivors are able to be at a safe environment living in the communities. The second, I think that Sandra already mentioned about this, and I really echo her voice. That I'm sorry, Sandra, I had to borrow your word here. The most important here that a specialized so-called social worker, because they are not the construction worker, but the social worker, they must be able to help the survivor to say out. One question asking me that, Kosa, have you experienced ever get the voice of a lie by the survivor? Yes, many at the beginning they told us what is condition. After they met the police, they told another condition. After we work with them at the community, they told another condition. So that we cannot say this wrong. No. We have to be able to analyze and identify clearly about the information from them. That is important that the skillful staff, social worker, are very helpful for making sure that the life of survivor be able to recover. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kosal. Excellent perspective there. So now let's hear from Chandra.
Oh, just amazing to hear everybody. Imagine if we always come together, collaborate like this, right? So, number one is be humble. Don't fight about the funding. Let's come together. Partnership, not only partnership, all stakeholders, including bilateral and multilateral relation. This is what happened in Asia. From Malaysia, Indonesia, so much victim, not only many, so much victim in Malaysia, but no help. How do we deport? How do we Indonesian act? We need to make this relation established well for the sake of the victim, for the sake of survivor. This is what we have to highlight in ASEAN-ACT because of we are saying Asian Australia and counter trafficking. And the second is survivor is human being. They are not commodity. Sometimes organization, NGO, and government organization treat them as a merchandise. Example, I can speak what I see, what I experience. People that in Saudi Arabia having a problem. Oh, they just left it. They died. They are in the box. And it's difficult. Even the government have difficulties to help them to send the body home. Let's be a change maker for this. We have previously 170, now 142. Let's be a change maker. Imagine if 142 have the web. We are a spider making a web. How many more people become a change maker? Your voice is matter, even though only little. You do a little action will give a big impact to the world and do good to make the world better for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chandra. That's very helpful. So thank you again. Now let's hear from Asik Lilian, please.
Thank you, Attorney Darlene. There are emerging trends in the current landscape of trafficking in the Philippines and ASEAN. And now we also require an advanced response to counter traffickers. And it is important to break these invisible chains. As we think of a policymaker, the main question is, how do policies translate to the grassroots level, where trafficking often begins? The answer lies in community, in our home, in our workplace, based initiatives, local government units, and partnership with the non-government organizations and the civil society organization. Also leveraging not only at the national platforms, but ASEAN as a whole for multi-sectoral initiatives in imposing tailored social protection programs, survivor-centered and trauma-informed services. Survivors' voices are paramount in decision making. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ASEC. And I agree with every one of you. ASEC, you always bring in this perspective of not only the government, but the ASEAN as well. So thank you so much. And my takeaway really from every one of you, and you've really gave life and meaning to the topic that we had today, that because your voices matter. So thank you so much. And with that, I will now give the floor. But before that, since I have everyone in the room, may I invite our team leader, Lucia and Pom, to join me. I want to capture this moment. And also, Bia, if you're still with us, please join us for our group photo. Since this morning, we weren't not a complete group. So, Pom, we have everyone here. And Bia, please, if you can join us. Group photo. Yes. So, Agus, please give us the cue.
Yes, Darlene. Everyone, look up to the camera, please. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. One more.
With the wave.
Yes. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much. And now I'll give the floor to our team leader, Lucia, please.
Thank you, Darlene. This is our last webinar for the year at ASEAN-ACT, but I would actually like to suggest to our audience and to all counter-trafficking practitioners that drawing on the expertise and experiences of survivors should actually be our starting point. And it should actually be our first priority for designing and implementing more effective counter-trafficking initiatives. It's broadly acknowledged as policymakers that policy needs to be inclusive of those most impacted by the change. If we're building a new education system, it's common to consult with children and parents. If we're building a new transport route, we ask the local community where they need to go, what they need. And as counter-trafficking practitioners, I think we really all need to ask ourselves, why is it still the exception, not the norm, that survivors of exploitation are consulted on initiatives that most directly impact them? Some of the challenges around survivor engagement were raised today, and those challenges are very legitimate, including the lack of short and long-term support for survivors, the shame and stigma that survivors face in accessing even their basic rights, let alone asking for a seat at the policy table, the assumptions that might be made about how survivors would like to engage in counter-trafficking efforts. But I think we need to acknowledge that none of these barriers here have been put in place by survivors themselves. They're societal and they're structural. And we're all responsible for removing those barriers and actually offering a seat at the policy table for people who have experienced human exploitation. ASEC Lillian, it was a wonderful start, and thank you for your encouraging presentation highlighting ASEAN's commitment to increasing survivor leadership and engagement, including through the Bohol 2.0 work plan. I think it's really quite significant to have a representative from the SOMTC, a body focused on security issues and crime, talking about inclusive public policy. Your vision for a justice system based on compassion and respect is a goal for all of us to aspire to. And you really emphasize that survivors of trafficking need access to a range of critical services. If those needs and those are not met and those services are not provided in a timely, accessible and non-judgmental manner, it is near impossible for a survivor or any of us as humans to recover and make a meaningful contribution. You highlighted the need for investment in NGOs and support for survivor-based organisations and the really transformative role that survivors play in humanising the trafficking experience and building empathy and awareness among groups that are particularly vulnerable, but also among the general public. Ibu Maizada, thank you so much for your courage in sharing your experience, both as a leader and as a survivor. Your resilience is astounding, and you have shown us that from traumatic experiences, incredible leadership and championship can grow. You showed us that community outreach right from the kampung or the village level right up to the national level is critical in educating and empowering our migrant workers to make their journeys safe and successful. You also highlight the importance of continuous listening and learning, and I think this is something that we all need to be reminded of more often. Terima kasih sekali dan semoga sukses dengan usaha-usaha yang penting sekali ke depannya. Mr. Salam, you reminded us of some really uncomfortable but important truths. Those being that stigma is faced by pretty much all survivors of trafficking across the world. And you also told us that alternatives to exploitative work need to be offered. For trafficking survivors, there are still financial obligations. There are family obligations. Survivors want to work. They want to contribute. So there's no point rescuing a survivor and supporting a survivor if you don't have a legitimate and meaningful alternative for them to move on to. I really liked your focus also on continuous learning, and the burden is certainly on all of us to educate ourselves, not just on survivors, to gather the evidence base on how we can respond more effectively. Your experience at HRC sounds really positive, and it was wonderful to hear of an employee that acknowledged that you were equally capable, but also that you have a unique experience that nobody else has. And another uncomfortable truth, but one work on, is the paternalistic attitudes that still exist in some circles towards survivors, that they remain victims in need of our charity, in need of our help, in need of us making decisions for them. But rest assured that the people joining you on this webinar are also committed to changing the attitudes and behaviours of those actors that are promoting paternalistic over empowering approaches. And Mr. Kasal, it was wonderful to hear about the collaborative approach of Chapdai and your reach throughout all provinces in Cambodia. You really reminded us that immediate protection is really important, but to really end the cycle of human trafficking, we need to provide long-term protection and support to prevent re-trafficking. We also need to advocate for things like compensation from the government. If compensation is not available, survivors are really not getting anything out of a justice process. Their experience hasn't been fully acknowledged. The gravity of the crime hasn't been fully acknowledged. And so this is, of course, one of the reasons, as you pointed out, that so few survivors actually go on to make a contribution to counter-trafficking efforts. You reminded us that it's not just about having individuals that want to put their hand up to be leaders. It's also about creating a supportive, enabling environment in which survivors can succeed. And finally, Ibu Chandra, thank you for such a thought-provoking address. You reminded us that things like migration, political crisis, economic crisis, these are all drivers of human trafficking, and anyone can fall prey to a trafficker. It's never the fault of an individual, and it should never be put down to luck. Exploitation is systemic and it's explainable if we look at what the evidence is telling us. And whilst it's explainable, it is definitely not excusable. You also talked about some of those labels and the stigma that is put on survivors, implying guilt, shame, blame, moral misconduct, and even criminal behaviour. Language is important, and for inclusive survivor engagement, we need to acknowledge that survivors themselves also want to play different roles. There may be some who want to address an audience of 1,000 at the United Nations. There may be some who want to walk and talk quietly and contribute their efforts in other ways. However survivors would like to contribute, we need to make sure these efforts are compensated and valued. In closing, what I think was so incredible about all of our speakers today is how much you have all done as individuals with incredible barriers, very few budget and resources, and in a system and a society in which trafficking in persons is largely still invisible. It is inspiring, and it's a very hopeful note to end our webinar series for 2024. Thank you so much to all our experts. And since it's the last webinar for the year, I would also like to thank our wonderful designers and facilitators, Darlene and Pom, who really design these webinars from scratch, and to our entire ASEAN-ACT team who work behind the scenes to make these discussions happen. Thank you again, and we look forward to another thought-provoking and really interesting series in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucia, for the excellent closing, as always. And of course, on behalf of ASEAN-ACT, Mr. Salas, Mr. Salam, Mr. Kosal, Ms. Chandra, and Asek Leland, it's been a great honor and pleasure to have you as our panelist. And you have provided everyone with excellent sharing and guidance. And thank you, Via, for staying with us too. The whole afternoon. It means a lot to us. And of course, thank you, Pom, for being an excellent co-moderator as well. And to all our participants, thank you for your thoughtful questions and comments. Reminder, please, on the feedback, please complete the one-page feedback. There you see the QR code. And while you're filling up that feedback, because your certificate of attendance will be sent to you in the email that you will provide in that feedback. And while you're filling that up, I would just like to share with you the feedback we had from the last webinar we held in August 1, which is from Contracts to Coercion, Understanding Forced Labor in the ASEAN region. So in this feedback, as you can see, our respondents rated that the webinar or the event itself was very useful. At 98% said it was very useful. Then 97% said they learned something new, and 95% of our respondents mentioned that the topic was very relevant to their work and the speaker were knowledgeable. So we had 4 speakers at the time. And then, of course, we would like to quote one of the feedback we got from one of the participants, and the participant said, this event has emphasized the crucial role of interagency collaboration, information dissemination to raise awareness in preventing and combating forced labor, human trafficking, illegal recruitment. This will also help me in better dispensing my duties by looking at these victims in a different lens. So there you go. Thank you so much for your feedback and your comments. It will definitely help us continue to do our best, improve our webinar after each webinar. To all the ASEAN-ACT, of course, the team behind the scenes, you know who you are, the country management teams, the leadership teams, the comms teams, everyone, the operations teams, my heartfelt thanks to you. We could not have done this without your support. So it's always an honor to host this webinar. Have a great weekend and a good Friday, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panel.
Darlene, thank
And thank
you.
you to all
And
our
thank you,
interpreters. Thank you so much.
thank you, Mbak Mbak
Thank you
Indah.
very much. It is amazing. Darlene, I just want to inform you. It's already off, right?
Mbak Sandra, miss you.
Yeah, miss you too. Hi, salam. Darlene, there is a survivor leader from Philippines. She is in France. I should connect you with her.
Yes, please.
She just got presidential award from Philippines.
Oh, wow. Yes, please. I think I've heard of.
I will connect you.
Yes.